Welcome back to Rooted Latinas, your go-to podcast for honest conversations, laughter, and a whole lot of relatable experiences. We're sharing our journey of adapting from a Latino household to life in the U.S., discussing challenges, transforming obstacles, and celebrating personal growth.
Yeah. Hi. All right. So welcome to another episode of Rooted Latinas. Today you can see we have our beautiful guest.
How did I get here?
Yeah, how'd you get here? Samantha Mesa.
Oh, surprise.
Yes.
Sure you didn't see that one coming.
I know. We're so excited to have you back in the community,
Thank you.
back in town. So you've had so much going on in your life. You're engaged. I mean, you're just like, glowing, a new job, all of that. So tell us a little bit more about yourself. Introduce yourself, like who you are, and then we'll kind of dive in.
I was raised in Colorado. I come from a huge Mexican-Irish family. There's 8 of us. So I'm a big sister of 5 boys, and I got 2 older siblings. So I grew up in chaos. And I guess that's what I've done with my career, is just chaos. But I've been working in news for 10 years now. And I've been able to work in different states, just kind of learning the U.S. On the news trek. And so I go where the work is. I go where the news is. And it's just like been a school of life for the past 10 years. So I started in Texas, and then I moved to upstate New York, got my master's at Columbia Journalism School, and it just kind of was like ping pong. That's what journalists do. I went from Texas to New York to the Mexico border, and then this job in Iowa, what is now years ago, which kind of feels crazy to say that because it doesn't feel like that long ago.
No.
But I came here initially to work at the ABC affiliate, and that was a really amazing time to just get so deep into community building. And so I took a job in Michigan when my contract was up at the ABC station, and just a whirlwind in the media world. The landscape is changing. A lot of markets are going from 3 to 4 stations in a city to now merging duopolies to really survive financially right now. And that's just what is happening across the country. So I worked in a lot of different ownership companies. I got a good idea of how they all work, and everybody's just trying to serve the communities they serve the best they can in a very unstable time. So my time in Michigan ended sooner than anticipated, and fortunately, I'm really well connected to Channel 13. I have friends there, and I came to just kind of recalibrate with my fiance and be like, okay, what is the next plan? Because, priorities change. I'm not bouncing around from state to state like I have been able to, and I want to plant. I'm like, I'm at a different phase in life. So we talked, and my good friends at Channel 13, we just aligned. Yeah. The opportunity just made sense. And they saw what I did the first time I was here, which is this. Yes. It's building relationships. It's talking about the good in our communities and uplifting marginalized communities and really opening the door behind me and giving people a voice who just have not been represented in their local news. So I'm here again.
And
it's really exciting to be here. It feels a little bit different in good ways. Yeah. In that I feel like there were seeds planted the first time I was here. And now, really quickly, about a year later, I'm here with a whole nother support system. Yeah. And Channel 13 is just so dedicated to, really what I have done in the past. And so it's just it's really encouraging to be here. Unexpected and in the best way.
So and your fiance he lives here. So you guys were doing the long distance, right?
Yeah. Okay. Don't recommend that.
Were you guys really? How long?
That was a year. Felt like longer.
Yeah.
But kudos to him. He drove 8 hours each way every weekend. Aww. Every weekend.
I love him.
To just stay connected. Yes. So we made it happen. Our little dog hopped in the car with him, and he did a total of 16 hours driving every single weekend, and we'd get a day together. And then it was back to the grind. But he's just a super supportive partner. And so that's kind of like a once in a lifetime thing. You don't just find that. So I have been just in such a space of gratitude, being here in Iowa again. And it's kind of like the heavy lifter is done. Yep. And now we're just like, okay, let's go. Yeah. Let's just get back to community building here And
love that.
the news cycle's crazy, perpetually crazy.
Yeah.
And so it's you never know what's going to happen. So, but to be surrounded by so many people here that there was a support system that really got built first time I was here. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, it feels like a homecoming. Even though I'm not from Iowa, there's such a warmth that I'm like, gosh, Iowa's become home. And I'm very just like grateful for that.
And we want we want to know who Samantha is now and what you're up to, what you have coming up. But we also want to start from the beginning and want to know what rooted you, like what has shaped you. And I don't know if you have specific questions around that, but
we started, to give you a little bit of background, Samantha, we started this podcast because we were like, we're all Latinas and we're
in the Midwest.
Where we always get old. Yeah. Every time we go to events, they're like, you're from Iowa? There's Latinos in Iowa? Yeah. We're like, yes, there is. And so we started this podcast to talk about what has shaped us from, living in a Latino household to living here in the United States, growing a business, growing ourselves. So we want to know what has rooted you as a Latina, and you've gone through a ton of different experiences. Hearing you say you grew up in chaos because of a big family.
I didn't realize you came from a big family.
I was very Latino.
Okay, so you're Latina.
I was just raised with a baby on my hip. I was like, there's always another one coming. And I'm like, you need to be fed. You need a diaper changed. Slow down, mom and dad.
Is that how it really felt? So how old were you when was the baby? How old were you when the last baby was born, I guess?
When I first basically started helping raise my little brothers, I want to say 8.
Oof.
And it was a conveyor belt from then on. Boy after boy after boy. And so I took on the motherly role immediately. And now it's really, at this stage in my life, my brother's the youngest, are in their 20s, and I feel like a surrogate mom to them. I'm so proud of all the things they do. I'm like, you're going to college, you're getting a job, and they're finding themselves, and I'm like, I have this pride inside that I'm like, oh, you're gonna be okay, you're doing good, you're doing good, and it's like the things that shaped me when I think of just the years that have gone by, and I still really believe in journalism, is my family went through a lot of instability in I would say into my 20s. Okay. I was raised with the strong connection with my family in Long Beach. That's where my mom's family raised her. And so, and the Mesas are still in Long Beach. There's just a few of them left, but I loved going for summers, spending time with my grandparents, and we would have those fresh tamales on Sundays, and my grandma would spend the hours and hours and hours making them, and then she'd be mad at you if you wouldn't keep eating, she'd just be like, Lord, you're not going to say no to my food. But just a really strong love for family. And growing up in Colorado, that was a unique experience in its own, because you're not necessarily around people that relate to your culture the way that, your parents are trying to keep the culture alive. And I learned a lot more about my identity when I was going through college. Something that was very, very difficult, very traumatic to go through, but it shaped why I got into journalism. Was my dad was diagnosed with cancer, stage 4 inoperable prostate cancer when I was 21. I'm trying to find my way through college. And that was just really, shocking. It's really hard to figure out how do you as a family survive that, because it's just an absolute fallout of everything to be your life. And when you have especially 5 boys who are still dependent on their parents, and I'm trying to find my way as a college student, it was really rough. So my dad was given a very harsh diagnosis of you either go through hardcore chemo for a year and a half and it's going to cost you're buying time, or you've got about a month left. He was at a really bad point. And so my mom became his caretaker, and it was just constant medical paperwork. And then it was trying to figure out how to keep the house and how to keep food on the table. And I found a lot of purpose in education and the value of journalism and being an advocate for people who really don't know better. They need an advocate. They need resources presented to them, because you don't know what you don't know. And this is before social media was prolific. So we really were watching local news every night. And my dad he owned a construction company, and he ended up being exposed to very toxic asbestos. And a lot of men work in construction, especially Mexican men, who that is the work that they find. A lot of men were diagnosed with this same form of cancer, and eventually it was looked into on our local news. And it was like, gosh, why do we have to find out this way?
Right.
Why do we have to find out that he was exposed to something that ultimately took his life, that if we would have known better, we could have maybe protected ourselves. Maybe they would have banned asbestos sooner. So that was a shift for me in my 20s. It's a very heavy shift, but it's also part of like why I'm so motivated to be kind of a protector through news, and then to also look for people who are making a difference. Look for the solution seekers, people that want to bring hope into their communities, whatever that looks like. So it's very deep for me. It's almost like spiritually deep. And that's really like what drove me into journalism.
Yeah. And how do you bring your family along to believe, like you have this strong belief now of like educating ourselves and going to find the answers, right? And being able to help everyone else with what we find. How do you bring the rest of your family and the, 8 siblings along to believe that with you? Because like, I know like for example, when I learn something, I'm like, hey,
you want to share it.
Yeah. You want to share it and be like, be careful because this, So I don't know, and it's hard to sometimes like, okay, they're not taking it serious, but this is serious,
And sometimes maybe they think you're just like, calm down, like reel it back. Yeah. We don't need to be worried about everything. Yeah. I have learned over the years to kind of like filter through, I don't, because sometimes my brothers get overwhelmed. And that's valid too, because how much information of like dangerous things out in the world can we process before we start getting paranoid? Yeah. So I think I have a better balance with it now. Every day is different, and what's true today can change tomorrow. Yeah. When you're on the news grind, and researchers will tell you the same thing. Every day shows something different in what they understand.
So all that happened, all that has helped shape you, all the family stuff, and obviously like that's like kind of like the stories that we all connect on, and and I know Maria, you just shared about your dad and how
as I'm sitting here and listening to you, it's really true. Like some of those experiences, if we go through it as a family, sometimes it starts shaping us into how we continue to move forward in life. And you mentioned something where it was like we don't know what we don't know. Yeah. And then until we go through that is when we start sharing back, you know?
And then you realize you're not alone.
Right.
In a lot of things that you navigate. And it's something that I really just try to protect and really do something with is to share my experiences so that people see whatever you're going through, it's not the end for you. Yeah. And there is hope. There's paths forward. Yes. And that's something I didn't have when I was growing up. Talk about going, like, stabbing around in the dark. It was just, I had to be an anchor in my family. Yes. And being a first-gen college student, too, there's a lot of responsibility that comes with that. And you start to learn so much about the world around you, and there's just better ways to live, safer decisions to make. Yep. And that is where I kind of became like really committed to, journalism and connecting the dots for people that don't know what they don't know. And it would be easy if I just do the work for them and help them make better decisions.
Yeah. And then there's also that fine line of like, you want to make sure, how do you do your research to make sure that it's also facts and true and not misleading people, it's like you see a lot of that going on as well. Misinformation. Yeah. Yes. And so it's like that fine line there. But
I was going to say there's in that same topic, like I know like the way that you think and the way that has shaped you to today. I think a lot of people here in Iowa have felt that and seen that. Why everyone was so excited to see you back.
Oh, I love that. That just like fills my heart.
Yeah, I was sharing it to them backstage. Like there was a time when you announced you were coming back in my news feed on Facebook, and everything was filled with Samantha's. Yeah, I was coming back, and so I'm like getting to know you now here and hearing you, even like just your energy, your aura, like everything is so cool and so genuine. I know like there's probably like aside from what you mentioned right now, how tough it was when you went through that with your dad, there's probably been other tough moments.
Yeah.
How have you navigated through that? Like, during those tough times, what kept you going? What made you be like, I'm going to continue this?
I have really leaned into my faith. And then physical fitness has made a huge difference. In the pandemic, something that comes to mind that really pounded me to the ground mentally was the isolation of the pandemic and relationships that kind of have really messy fallouts. The pandemic brought out the good in people, and it also like really showed what wasn't working. Yeah. And some things just came to a hard stop. And so the pandemic was a very strange time, very traumatizing for everybody in different ways. Right. I mean, going through a pandemic collectively is like everybody's scared. Yeah. And you don't know how your body's going to handle it. But I got into a group, Latino Media All-Star Runners. And while we couldn't be like face to face because of COVID, we would check in on Instagram and just be like, I ran this far. Who's out there running? We were literally running by ourselves across the country in our respective markets. And we just check in. And it was very eye-opening in that I'm like, I've got to take care of my health. That has to be a priority. And then leaning into my faith and then keeping good people close. I have mentors I've leaned into who work in, you know, be it network correspondence or they're in local news in different cities. I have my people that I can lean into if I'm struggling, or say even my newsroom doesn't know how to handle a story ethically, how to give coverage to it and respect all parties involved. And I'll just reach out to someone who I really trust and they'll just be like, this is how we're handling it here. And I'm a part of National Association of Hispanic Journalists. That's made a difference for my career support.
How so? Just because it's other Latino journalists?
Yeah, they have conferences every year where you go, there's workshops. It's kind of like, it's a refresh on the current trends, and it's a gathering of Latino journalists who are working in different markets in different roles, and they're experiencing different newsroom dynamics and, you know, maybe being treated differently as a Latino in each market. And so we just lean into each other and we give each other perspective and just build up that toolkit. I also am a big advocate for therapy. So I've done a lot of therapy and just, I've done a lot of work of going inside and healing that inner child and being like, how are those things that happened in the past and even not so far in the past? How's it affecting my present? So I've done a lot of personal work, and that's just a way of life for me now. And the pandemic really brought me to that space where I was like, I gotta pay attention to the bleed, everywhere that's bleeding, you know, had to. So I think my health and the way that I move through challenges, it's like, come at it from all sides, holistic, you know, like there's a lot of different sides to me, and the happy stuff like the community building, that's so much fun. And then, like, you know, I have my hobbies where I love to read and I love salsa dancing and I love trying different restaurants and I love good conversations. So I've learned to be take care of all the different dynamics, all the different parts of me.
Is there something about like being, you know, you're Mexican and have Irish, as you said, but is there some parts about being Mexican that you're like, oh, I wish like I knew this? Like, I know you don't speak Spanish, right? So do you wish you would now, or like, how do you feel when people are asking you?
That's a part of me that I'm just like, gosh, I wish I was further along than I am. And I wish I would have been more connected to my mom's cultural roots and would have been more exposed to the community her family grew up in before they crossed over the border. I really wish I would know that area. And I've been to Mexico a couple times when I worked on the border, and I was just like, oh my gosh, this is the part of me that's been missing. You know, it's like, it's something, there's the energy to it that you're just like, I feel more myself. Like I'm discovering more of who I am. And that's something, you know, you grow up in the US and it's, you have to really you have to seek it out.
Yeah.
I think. So, yeah, I have really great friends who are more connected with their Mexican roots, and they're just kind to me about it.
Yeah.
You know, because it is easy to feel like you're not enough American, you're not enough Mexican.
Yes.
Like you're in between worlds. And it can be very hard to feel like you know who what your identity is, or feel a sense of belonging.
Yeah.
Because when you feel like inadequate, say you don't speak Spanish well, or you weren't fully immersed in your family's culture, it's kind of like you feel ashamed.
Yeah.
And like you're not enough. So that has been, it's just a part of navigating identity.
But there's a lot of things that go into it, right? Like you're saying your mom speaks Spanish, your dad didn't. So that makes it harder on the one parent.
This is absolutely harder on the one parent, because then there's like this family bond disconnect, is a communication disconnect. And that stems back in my family to my mom's dad, my grandpa Bob. He was the only child to speak English in the U.S. He had to learn real quick. And when he would go to school in Long Beach, the Catholic nuns would beat him when he'd speak Spanish. So he was of that generation where speaking Spanish was shameful, and he had to navigate the U.S. system for his parents. He was a little kid. And how many kids go through that? So that's where I think that was where it was hard to keep Spanish strong in our family. That's where it started.
And that's wild, because nobody would know. But, you know, we see someone that looks like Latina, and like we just go and start talking Spanish to them, or ask, you know, and it's like, no, I don't. Or you speak a little bit, but we just don't know the full story and the full picture of like why. Yeah, there's always more to it.
Yeah, and when I started, I put more time into working on my Spanish in my 20s when I was in college, and it's like there was this part of my grandpa, I feel like he healed a little bit, because I would have conversations with him, and my Spanish, I sound like a baby. That's how you are when you start a language, but it was like the little boy in him that got beat in, you know, school. He was like, this is safe to speak Spanish. Yeah. Like, you're my granddaughter, and we're having a conversation in Spanish, and he was like so proud.
Yes, yeah.
I didn't know that you didn't speak Spanish, but I think it's also like there's so many people out there that think like, oh, that's a bad thing, or you know what you're mentioning, and there's like a lot of our even listeners, like I'm sure they go through the same thing, and I see it even on social media. It's like people will post and they're like, how do you not know Spanish and stuff like that, and I think it's just as like you mentioned,
it was that easy.
You know, exactly.
And I was telling you how, you know, my daughter, she's almost 2, and I'm trying to teach her Spanish. By my spouse doesn't speak Spanish, so it makes it hard, right, to always be the one. So and you know, so now my brain, and then you also feel guilty, like what if she doesn't speak Spanish fully, you know? And I'm not saying I speak it perfect, but you know, I want her to know more if possible. So my brain's already like, okay, like what school can I send her to so that she can learn Spanish, you know? Already thinking of like, okay, I need to get a pair that speaks Spanish and speak to her Spanish 24/7, you know, just all the little things.
And not only is it an identity thing and about relationships and maintaining your culture, but it's a skill. To be bilingual, you are an asset wherever you go. I think that is something that's becoming more normalized. It's like, do you realize if you can speak 2 languages, you can live in both worlds. You know, you can do so much more.
I think it's beautiful that even you don't speak it, you're still advocating, and you're still out there, and people feel that
I'm working on it. I'm a little rusty, but don't give up on me.
Never.
I think I see it, you know, at least looking at it from the outside, because I didn't know you like that. I'm like, like it's, there's so many women that can look up to you, you know?
Yes, and I think too, don't give up on yourself, even though, you know, you're not as far as you want to be, or say, you know, you're learning a language later in life. It's harder for the brain to process a second language, whatever. And the older you get, and that's just a dynamic. And I have so much respect for people who later in life, they are kind of forced to learn another language, you know, because they move to another country and they've got to adapt. And they get past the embarrassment of like, oh my gosh, I'm saying things wrong. I feel so stupid. People are judging me. And so I'm like, okay, all right. I just got to get past my, like, the frustration of not being raised fully bilingual is really what it is. Because I'm just kind of just like,
Yeah.
Why
Right?
can't I just go back and just be like,
Yeah. Well, I want to jump into a different topic, which is like all the work you did and are doing and are going to do for this community. And that's how we met. I think we met like at a pool party, right?
Yep.
That Catherine threw, and that was
it's a good place to meet.
Yeah, it's a good place to meet. Yeah, it was amazing. But even before you were fully moved back, you attended the JEFA's summit, right? The Latina Excellence Summit. You were present on that. I know you're gonna be on the Latino Trade Network for the Lunch and Learn coming up this Thursday already. Jeez. Okay. So you can be on that. You're just really involved. And I just saw your post how for Latino Heritage Month, you're doing all these segments, right?
Yes.
So tell us more about that and the work you're doing.
This is just the time to really dive into who our communities are, what countries we represent, what industries we work in, how we're making a difference in our communities, and how we're still celebrating and maintaining our cultures here in the Midwest. So it's really just it's getting to know Iowa. It's getting to know Central Iowa, because the more you take the time to learn people's stories, as I get to do in my job, it's really inspiring how dynamic Central Iowa is. And I'm going to do that. I'm going to focus my stories on people who are making a difference and being solution solvers, people that bring problem solving careers to their communities. And then I just want to get to know the people of different countries here. And like, what is their life like? What are their traditions? What are their favorite dishes to cook? What are the local businesses that we can support? What are, what is the scope of diversity here? And what does that look like? And I think something that I've been really refreshed by is when people are born and raised here, they're not Latino, they really are ready to be allies though. And they want to get to know their neighbor. Instead of seeing it as this other, that's a beautiful thing.
Yes.
And not everybody has time to get out of their routine and reach out and meet people from a different culture. So I'm going to be the connector.
Yes, I was going to say you're going to be the connector.
Yeah.
And then, so how do people reach you, or how do you reach people to to have them on?
I have I'm very active on social media, and that is, I think, that's where I get the most stories, because I try to stay visible so people see what my daily routine is. I mean, if they're going to tune in and get the news every day, I think they should deserve to see like what the whole process looks like. So Facebook and Instagram. I'm not really on Twitter much. Don't tell my boss. And then my email is just my first and last name, Samantha Mesa @whotv.com. So just reach out. And thankfully, I think that my name has gotten consistent enough out there that enough people know where to find me. And so it's like, I try to be very accessible. And I'm always trying to have, coffee connections and just sit down one-on-one with people too, because the better I know the community, the better I can serve it. And the more fun it is.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to kind of see, what comes up and what happens, and and see you on TV, and it's exciting to have you back again. But
more good to come.
It's
just more good to come. I've been processing this since I've been back not very long. There's a different kind of energy happening here, and I had a part of it right when I was first here, but it's gone it was like planting seeds, and I think more people feel empowered with what they're seeing in the media and knowing that they are represented more consistently. And so that's really cool. That's really cool to see that there's change happening in a really good way.
I'm excited. I can already feel you're going to do so many amazing things. For everyone listening, follow her. Your username is?
Samantha Mesa TV. That's on Instagram, and it's the same thing on Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah. This is really a time to link arms, link arms and not just, be a part of alignment, but create joy. Like we're in this together.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Those are some great wise words to end our episode. Some great advice.
It was a pleasure getting to know you more.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for your time. And thank you to all of our listeners. She was amazing.
Yeah, till next time.
Yes. Oh, we're going to make this a thing. Ooh, I like that.